All right, we should be streaming. Let's go see how it looks, if it looks at all. In theory, we are live. Let's see if we are on Facebook. Yes. All right, we should be streaming. I need to mute this. Let's go to YouTube. YouTube says we are live. All right, so we're trying something new today. I've never tried before. We are just streaming. I'm streaming a mix session. And tonight we are doing final master prep for one of Caleb Ray Walker's tracks. We are working on If I Were a Weatherman or just Weatherman. Now we've already gone through a couple of mix revisions and mix reviews. And this is the final. I'm getting it ready for mastering. And making some small revisions, so I'll show you that process and what we're doing here. So let's play the song through once.
There is about a 50% chance of whiskey.
We turn off sonar work. I don't need it for this session.
If I was the weatherman,
Like I'm getting trashed.
Then I would have weather friends. We would stay up late drinking and talking about.
Now, since we're getting ready for mastering, one of the first things
pressure systems
I want to get going on here is
if I was
the
weatherman
level meter. Now, I like to use waves, WPM plus.
Then I would drive a weather van.
No, 24 lux is minus 24
I would
lux is
even know
recommended.
myself a suit
I usually
and
say
a
it's
tie.
minus 22. Why?
And all
It's
the
just a
people, they
personal
would stop
preference.
to say hi.
It's like a
Hello.
little
Well, I sure love your
little
show,
more volume.
Mr. Weatherman.
When I go to mastering.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I am using is the
If
isotope
I
tonal balance,
was the
which helps me see
weatherman, I think I would
tonal
buy
balance
myself a yacht.
based on existing
And
masters. Now, I don't use this while
y'all
mixing.
could go and float around
only near the end of the
when
final
I
mix do I
would
use it.
predict
But at this
it
point,
to
I really kind of see
hot.
where I'm going heading into mastering. Right now, it's telling me I'm a little hot in the 100 to 200, but I'm still in the range, so I have to decide if that's something that I like or if I think
We
it's mud in
could discuss those old trade winds,
there. Now I have two screens, and I can show you
and
how the
I
screen
could
that
tell
looks
whether or not
That should
the
switch.
temperature was about
seeing that
to
screen.
drop. If I was
like. But today we'll be
The
mostly
weatherman.
sticking with the edit window.
when
Or whatever,
I
the next
would
window.
drive my weather van,
All right, now we just drop the volume to compensate.
and I'll
for-
probably just crash it and die.
Looks like we're still good to
And all
board.
the people they mourn
out.
and cry because
I don't like that
oh
static.
how they loved their weatherman.
We'll see how that comes out on the screen. We'll see
Oh yes, they loved their
what we are
weatherman.
seeing on the stream. Okay. That's
And I'll
If
have
you have any
on
questions, I
that
will be checking
suit and that
comments every now
tie.
and
Close the coffin and say
Alright.
goodbye to
looks like we got
your
a good general
local
level. I like WPA Plus
weatherman.
because it automates some things that other plugins don't automate for monitoring levels. But if you want a free one, a good one is Melda Productions. What's it called? It's called Melda Productions. I think M. Oh, I forget. But it's a free plugin, M Loudness Analyzer. But I do prefer the whatever this is called, WLM Loudness Meter Plus from Waves. And I'm going to pin that so I always have access to it up there. All right, so One of the first things I want to check, because one problem I was having with this mix is not enough stereo separation on the vocals.
Then
So I'm
I
going to go to the
would
vocal bus.
have
I'm going to
weather
add,
friends.
stereo.
We would stay up late drinking and talking about different pressure systems.
It's called.
If I was the weatherman,
Is this it?
then
No, this is not it.
Then I would have weather friends.
And
We would
stereoscope.
stay up late drinking and talking about
Now, what this is
different
telling me is that yes,
pressure
indeed,
systems.
the vocals are
If I was
basically
the
mono.
weatherman,
Now, when I mixed this, I mixed it through the console and then brought it back in, and in some
Then-
cases the vocals did come through
then
mono. So we're
I
going to add
would have
a little
weather
doubling
friends.
in there to get a little
We
more depth in
would
the
stay up
vocals.
late drinking
So
and
we're
talking
using doubler, which I
about
don't remember who
different
makes that.
pressure
like
systems.
Now, I don't want to use too
If
much.
I
I usually
was
just use a tiny bit.
the weatherman, then
Now, if we go back to
then
the
I
analyzer,
would have weather friends.
nope, not that one.
We would stay up late drinking
Now we
and
see we have
talking
contact
about
in the mids and
different
the sides.
pressure systems.
And I don't like that flashing, but I
If
assume it's
I
because of desktop
was
presenter.
the
Maybe I'll need
weatherman,
another solution for that. But then what I like to do,
then
I already have
I
the
would
FabFilter
have
Pro
weather friends.
multi-byte compressor using a preset called
We
expanded
would
side
stay up
dynamics.
late drinking
I
and
also
talking
sometimes like to
about
use-
different pressures.
That's really annoying, that flashing.
Then
Let's just see how the screen's
I
going.
would have weather friends.
Don't want live notifications.
We would stay up late drinking and talking about different pressure systems.
All right, so listening,
If I was the weatherman,
I hear a lot of low end coming through the middle.
then
So I'm going
I
to throw
would
in
have weather friends.
a little
We
dynamics on
would
the
stay
side
up late drinking and talking about
or in the
different
middle. So I'm going to
pressure systems.
and make it dynamic.
If I was the weatherman,
So actually, I'm going to start with it a
Then-
little higher, but have it get
then
louder,
I
quieter
would
as the vocal
have
gets louder.
weather friends.
And that's going to give me a little high end, well, not
We
quite high
would
end,
stay
mid-range,
up late
5K,
drinking and
but it's going to
talking
bring it
about
down as it
different
gets louder. As you see that line
pressure
moving.
systems.
So on the quieter vocals, it'll give me a
If
little more air
was
right in
the weatherman,
5K range, a little more volume there. And then
then
I want to add
then I
a little
would
side
have
low end
weather friends.
and make that dynamic.
We would stay up late drinking and
Let's try
talking
making
about
that
different
additive.
pressure systems.
So now,
I
as the
was
vocal gets louder,
the
it's going to give me a
weatherman,
little 500 in the sides, and that's going to give me just a little
then
stereo separation
then
because you
I
have
would have
mids and
weather
sides giving
friends.
some variability, which since I'm
We would
giving
stay
it
up
not a
late
full hard
drinking
pan on the
and
guitar,
talking about different
but it helps blend them
pressure
better.
systems.
So I'm going to back those off.
Then I would have weather
Make sure the doubler
friends.
is not too hot. Yeah, it is a little too hot right here.
We would stay up late drinking and talking
And
about
so, if I turn it
different
off.
pressure systems.
Now, if you notice, if I turn the doubler off,
If I
then I no longer
was
have
the weatherman,
much signal coming through in the side at all because the doubler is what's giving me
Then I would have
signal on the
weather
side.
friends.
But then when I turn the doubler back on,
we would stay
you'll
up
see that
late
start to lift a little
drinking and talking about different pressure systems. If I was the weatherman,
all right, let's stop looping and just play it through.
then I would
I'm gonna go to
drive
headphones for a
a
minute.
weather van.
Mute the
And I would
console.
even own myself
I
a
mean, the
suit
studio
and a
monitor.
tie. And all the people, they would stop to say hi.
think that's a
Hello.
little high.
Well, I sure love your show, Mr. Weatherman.
Let's turn this off for a minute, see what we got.
Well, if I was the weatherman, I think I would buy myself a yacht.
We're gonna bring
And
this point down a tiny
we all could go and float around. We were fair weather friends. We could discuss those trade winds,
bit. Okay, that's giving me a nice amount of depth in the mids and sides that I like.
and I could tell whether or
So I can shut
not
that down.
the temperature was about to drop. If I
Now it looks like
was the
that's
weatherman,
balanced out our low ends a little bit. Now if I turn off the bass completely,
when I
We'll probably see
would
that drop.
drive my weather van,
yeah, you see that drop.
and I'll probably just
So
crash
I
it
may
and
want to do a
die.
little bit.
And all the people, they mourn and
200.
cry
I already
because
have it cut at 200.
oh, how they loved their
That's on the
weatherman.
Broaden this a little
Oh yes, oh yes, they loved their weatherman. And I'll have
All right.
on that suit and that
bit. That looks
tie.
nicely balanced.
Close the
I'm
coffin
gonna check
and
my
say
mix bus
goodbye
settings.
to
I've been using
your local weatherman.
the UAD Manly plugin as a bus compressor, and with a slow recovery, it just helps glue things together.
Well, my forecast would say there is
gonna
about a
bypass that for a second.
50%
As you can hear, it's a big
chance
difference.
of whiskey today. And if I was the weatherman,
See where I have the the highs, the lows
then
cut,
I
highs
would
put.
have been talking
down a
about
little
different pressure systems. If I was
Bypass that for a moment.
the weatherman, then I would drive a weather van,
Let me put it back in.
and I would even own myself a suit and a tie. And all the people, they would stop to say hi. Hello. Well, I sure love your show, Mr. Weatherman.
Okay, we're gonna wait for some vocals.
Well, if I was the weatherman, I think I would buy myself a yacht.
Now, this song was
And
originally written for
we
bass
all
only.
could go and
So
float
I think I
around
like the heaviness at
when
the
I
bottom, so
would
I'm not gonna
predict
worry
it to
Too much
be
about that.
hot.
This is just a guide after all.
And if we were fair weather friends,
I would show a little drop at the 2K to see if that's intentional or not.
we could discuss those trade winds. And I could tell whether or not the temperature was about to drop. If I was the weatherman,
Let's bump up 2K a tiny bit.
when I would drive my weather van, and I'll probably just crash it and die. And all the people they mourn. The weatherman. Oh yes, oh yes, they loved the weatherman.
Okay, since we added a little bit on the vocals, let's bring the
And I'll
vocals down a
have
bit.
on that suit and that tie, close the coffin and say goodbye to your local weatherman.
Oh, I was starting over. Where am I? Let's go there.
Is the weatherman. If I was the weatherman, well, my forecast would say, well, there is about a 50% chance of whiskey today. And if I was the weatherman, then I would have weather friends.
Output level looks good.
We would stay up late drinking and talking about different pressure systems. And if I was
Now,
the
in this
weatherman.
mix, I am using parallel for reverb. Cush audio, both
I
places
would
in my
drive
favorite
a
lately, but I am
weather
also
van.
in the K area.
And all the people, they would stop to say hi. Hello, well, I sure love your show, Mr. Weatherman.
I want a little extra compression on the guitar. So let's copy it to here.
Well, if I was the
This series of plugins from IK
weatherman,
Multimedia
I
have
think
become
I
my go-to and my
would buy
favorite.
myself
They're
a
clean,
yacht.
simple, and basic.
And we all
They're
could
really
go and float around when I would
a
predict
little
it
more
to be
dry.
hot.
That's too much.
If we were fair
separation.
weather friends,
Like where it is.
we could discuss those trade
A little faster
winds.
attack to catch those heavier strums, but I don't want to get rid of them
And
completely.
I could tell
So let's aim
whether
that.
or not the temperature was about to drop. If I
That's what it was.
was
And now we're going
the
to
weatherman,
setting. A little too much.
when I would drive
It's
my
like 1 dB difference.
weather van,
6.0 to 5.8, 0.2 dB difference.
and
but I
I'll
can hear it.
probably
I'm changing the
just
attack
crash
to
it and die.
faster attack.
And all the people, they mourn and cry because, oh, how they loved their weatherman. Oh, yes, oh, yes, they loved their weatherman. And I'll have on that suit and that tie, close the coffin and say goodbye to.
Now, one thing you'll hear if we solo the guitar,
We would stay up.
on the left side, you hear a little bit of arm noise on the guitar. Now, at this point, there's nothing we can really do about that. What I've been doing lately to fix that is just moving the mics further back and using double condensers rather than a dynamic and a condenser. I have a background in live sound, and you always use a condenser, a dynamic on the guitars. But for recording, not so much. And by moving it back, you don't pick up those incidental noises
And hello,
nearly as much.
well, I sure love your show, Mr. Weatherman.
I do want to see what I'm doing here. Got a dip there.
If I was the weatherman,
And also have a dynamic
I
here.
think I would buy myself a yacht, and we all could go and float around when I would.
I'm going to solo that. What if we bring this one down a bit on the left side? Let's undo that. And let's add a cut on the left. Let's make it dynamic. Actually, let's see where that's coming from. There it is, about 6.5K. So I'll do a cut, dynamic cut. On the left side, so it'll take away the drop when it gets louder. Pull some of that out. Let's turn it off and see. Let's move it off. You hear some of the arm noise. Turn it back on. Arm noise is still there, but it's less distracting now. So we'll take that. So we did a dynamic EQ, left channel only.
If I was the weatherman, I think I would buy myself a yacht, and we all could go and float around when I would predict it to be hot. And if we were fair weather friends, we could discuss those old trade winds.
Tiny bump into 2K.
And I could tell whether or not the temperature was about to drop. If I was the weatherman, when I would drive my weather van.
Yeah, I kind of like that. What if we made it?
And I'll probably just crash it and die. And all the people, they mourn and cry because, oh, how they loved their weatherman.
Nope, that one likes to be on both.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they loved their weatherman. And I'll have on that your local weatherman.
All right, now we're going to do some cleanup. Let me switch to the other monitor. Let's save it. Oops, nope. Save it. Go back to here. I'm going to save a version. One thing I do like to do is frequently save a different version of the file. Pro Tools files are small. So my naming convention is the name, the date, and then 01 after it. So now we're going to save 02. So if we mess anything up, we can revert to the previous version. And I'm going to switch screens for y'all. All right, so now we are in the edit window. Now I have heard a few things here and there, little mouth noises, and we're going to manually enter those out. First, we're going to look at the base DI. I am using a little bit of the base DI, and there's noise here we simply don't need. So goodbye. We're just going to make sure it's a clean cut.
Today.
Yep.
If
If it wasn't a clean cut, we could use a crossfade to clean that up. Now, as we look through here, you'll see little bumps. Some of these are breaths, some of these are mouth clicks. Let's see what this one is.
oh, my forecast forecast would say. There
Mouth click. And just
There is about a 50% chance of whiskey today.
tiny little click. And these are so easy to edit out. It takes a couple minutes.
If I was the weatherman, then I would have weather friends.
What's this?
We would.
Yeah, that's a mouth click.
We would stay up late drinking and talking about different pressure systems.
We don't need it. Let's get rid of it.
If I was the
Yep, there's a big one. Now, these also exist on these other channels, but these are reverb and delay. And they are being used, but they are so quiet that it's not worth going into those and editing them out. I should have edited out these noises before I melted them out, but I didn't, so I'm doing it now.
The weatherman.
I thought I heard something.
The weatherman.
Yeah, it's inside the notes.
Then
All right, let's get rid of these. And you always want to play where you cut, because sometimes there can be clicks at the cuts. Usually it's not so bad when it's no sound.
Then I would drive a weather van. And I would even own myself a suit and a tie. And all the people, they would stop to say hi. Hello, well, I sure love your show, Mr. Weatherman.
Yep, two little tiny clicks there. Let's get rid of those. One coming up.
Live.
Don't need it, get rid of it.
If I was the weatherman, I think I would buy myself a yacht. And
Is that the end of the T, or?
yacht. And
That's kind of a follow on the T. Yeah, that's a t, t, t. That's okay. That one we don't need. This one,
we all could self a yacht. And we all could. We all.
yeah, we don't need that.
And we all could go and float around when I would predict it to be hot.
That's part of the T. Yep. Hot. But these we don't need.
We
Little clicks. Get rid of those.
and I could tell whether or not the temper.
Ooh, that's not sure what that is.
The temperature.
Yeah, it's a mouth noise. Nice lip smack.
The temperature was about to drop. If I
Don't need it, get rid of it.
If I was the weatherman, when I would drive my weather van.
That was part of a breath. I think we can do without it. Let's see how it sounds without it.
And I'll probably just crash it and die. And all the people, they mourn and cry because, oh, how they loved their weatherman. Oh,
Those are breaths.
oh.
Let's try it without it.
Oh,
Actually, I like the breaths in there.
oh,
What if we just leave one in? Because it leads into the words.
oh.
Let's leave a tiny bit more in.
Oh,
You know what? I want to leave it in, but I want to lower it. Because I do like having a little breath there. Let's try, I'm going for about a 6 dB drop.
weatherman. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they loved their weatherman. And I'll have,
That sounds like it's part of the lead into the and.
and I'll have,
I'm not sure what that is. Let's see what happens when we delete it.
and I'll have,
I don't know, I might like it.
and I'll
do.
have on that
It's the beginning of the and. All right.
suit and that tie. Close the coffin and say goodbye to your local weatherman.
All right, I think that does everything we need to do. I think this is done. So let's bounce it and check it. Let me just see if there are any questions anywhere. None, none. YouTube says I'm trying 1080 on this, a dual stream of 1080 to Facebook and YouTube. I'll have the switchers in the other room, so I don't know what the bit rate drop is look like. But maybe I need to go back to 720 or just do one stream. We'll see how it differs between two platforms. So we've been on for 35 minutes. That's about how long it takes for me to do this final check pre-mastering, just to make sure everything is kind of where I want it and make any last minute changes. The thing I did at first was a stereo separation of the vocals, because I noticed that that was a thing that was in all of these since I did it in analog. And it was multing, it just was not giving as much stereo separation. So I was hoping to get through it without the doubler, but the doubler really makes a difference, especially when you turn it down and then you use dynamic EQ to enhance the doubling, because if you make the doubler too strong, you just get this weird robot-y, pitchy thing. But if you use this just to give you a little energy in the sides and pull a little bit, additional energy in the sides, and then use oops, I pushed the button. Oh, I didn't change screens up for y'all. All right, let's go back here. I'm sitting here showing you things. Now, these Melda things occasionally do this, and it can be annoying. But
Was the weather.
We're not adding much stereo
I
separation,
think I would buy myself a
there's
yacht.
some there.
And
you can definitely hear it,
y'all
definitely see
could
it
go
in the
and float
mid-side.
around when I would
But we're not
predict
doing much
it
width, only
to
about
be
5%
hot.
width. But it definitely,
If
toggle this,
we were fair weather friends,
definitely a slight difference. At least I can hear it in the headphones here.
we could discuss those old trade winds, and I could tell whether or not the
Looks like the level meter is
temperature
good.
was
About
about to
-20
drop.
to 21, that's just fine.
If I was
We're doing a 10 dB drop on the master fader just to compensate for things being a little too hot everywhere else. But as long as we're not peaking, that peak here was from something before, probably when I was playing with the mics. So on this track, very simple track, we have layered guitars. They were doubled, very basic bass. Then we had comp vocals, and that was taken out to the console and mixed, multed to four tracks. And I like to mult because EQ is better cut. Actually, it was only 3. EQ is better cutting than boosting. Boosting leaves artifacts. So I put out the main vocal, the 2 tracks, and then if I want more 500, on the other one, I'll cut around the 500. If I want more, 6K, I'll cut around the 6K rather than boosting, because boosting tends to leave, other artifacts and weirdnesses and phasing issues, especially if you're boosting in multiple places. It just gets funky. So cutting doesn't have some of the problems that EQ has when you're pushing on it too much. Save the file. The next thing we're going to do is bounce it and check it. Now, I always, when I mix, use a memory location of a selection area called ROS, run of song. And that is just to define the beginning, the end, so that I always output the same time of the track. Because like BMI requires everything to be the same time. So you want to make sure if you're, like, say, register at BMI and then have to replace it, it's a lot easier if the track is the same running time. So I use memory location to set the run of song, and then when I bounce it, I just click on it once, and it selects, how long the song is, and it's accurate every time. So now let's go bounce it. Interleave 2496. Let's change the date to 2021 0409 _1 because Pro Tools uses underscores. If you always start with your bounce and _1, it'll always number and sort them correctly. If you just leave it like that, then the next one will be _1, the next one will be _2, and sometimes in your Finder window or your Windows Explorer, whatever it's called, it'll sort them in the wrong order, not the last one first. So if you always remember to put a number in there, then it'll auto increment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that way, when you look at your window, you always have the most recent one on the bottom, and it just helps correct mistakes. Now, I always check import after bounce because I want to see the track and what it looks like. So we go ahead and bounce. Now, if you have SonarWorks, you have to make sure SonarWorks is off. You're not seeing the screen at all now, according to... Did we lose the presenter? See if I can get the desktop presenter back. There we go. Sorry, you missed some stuff. So now it's exporting it. Looks like the desktop presenter crashed, but it's back now. And this over here shows me over and unders, and the WLM has a thing where it can mark the overs and unders in an automation lane. Our overs and unders are not big, so I'm not worried about it. But it's kind of cool. You can it's a multi-step process, but you can open up an automation lane that'll show you exactly where the over and unders occurred. nearly done. That counter just went backwards. That's not fair. All right, then I just import it anywhere into the track, into the session. It puts it here, and now let me switch to. Let me switch to the other monitor. Now you can see we're not doing any limiting. We'll handle all the limiting. Oh, look, I did have some limiter on. We'll check that in a second. But it looks like nothing's getting squashed by a limiter, and the waveform looks good for mastering. So we're just going to delete that. But I had a limiter on, so I do want to check that. Sometimes, oops. Sometimes I leave the limiter on if it's just very subtle.
Was the weatherman.
As you can see right now, we're getting no limiting at all.
Then I would drive a weather van.
I could turn it off, but since I balanced
I would
everything
even known myself a suit and a tie.
with the limiter on,
And all the people
Just getting
they
a
would
couple
stop
tiny
to
hits,
say
and that's
hi. Hello. Well, I sure love your
1.5
show,
dB.
Mr. Weatherman.
oh, let me switch screens again because you can't see the limiter. My first day with the screen sharing.
Well, if I was the
limiter
weatherman,
now.
I think I would buy myself a yacht. And we all could go and float around when I would predict it
The
to
microphone we
be
used
hot.
on this is the Sound Deluxe U195. A
If
great
we
microphone.
were fair weather friends,
Just wish it had a multi-pattern option.
we could discuss those old trade winds.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the lack of limiting here.
And I could tell whether or not.
Now I could take this out and then rebalance with the WLM Plus, but there's just absolutely no point. I'm adding 3.1 dB and I'm just taking it out over there, and nothing's coming close to peaking, so I'm not going to take the time to do that tonight. And it, the mix is already approved and all that. All right, I think that is the end of this session, and that is the end of this stream. Now, if this was at all useful, I know it was a little clumsy. It was my first ever screen sharing mix session. If this was at all useful, leave a comment. Do like and subscribe. That really helps. If you'd like to see more, let me know. If there are certain subjects you would like to see covered, certain things about mixing you'd like to see covered, let me know that too. All right, I'm going to go turn off the switcher. Thanks for watching.